personal preparation plan if considering working in trauma-informed practice, Rory?
Yeah, I think if you are working with trauma, the saying hoping for the best and preparing for the worst is never as true as when you're putting together a personal preparation plan, because you never know when you may be triggered, or a story may be so powerful that you can't get rid of it in your mind. And I think there's two areas this speaks to in terms of theory. One is transference and the other is parallel process. Transference is where you're in an emotional time machine, where you are in front of somebody and the emotions of a past relationship or a past situation take over you. So you're literally being transported back in time. A good example is you meet someone brand new, client, for the first time, and all of a sudden you're feeling uncertain, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling nervous, you may even feel scared. And this is a bit of a puzzler, because you think, I don't know this person. Why would I feel like that? And then you realize they remind you of someone from the past. The key phrase here is staying present, because if we're in the past, we're relating to a past relationship. We're not the here and now relationship. And if we're working with a relationship in the past, with all the emotions and thoughts and memories of that, we're not really doing the client a service, because we're actually working with another person. So if that comes up, always worth saying, yeah, this is transference. And maybe it's not as easy to see in the moment. Maybe you go to supervision and you say, I don't like this client. And a good supervisor will say, does this person remind you of anybody? And in supervision, I've seen light bulbs click on. Oh, it reminds me of the past person. So that is really important. And also something called parallel process. There's a classic interpretation where you can be hearing the client's story, and that story reminds you of your stories. And you can't separate the emotions of what you're going through in your personal life from the client's frame of reference. So you're not sure whose emotions you're working with, your emotions or the client's emotions. That can be tricky. There's also a more contemporary view of parallel process, which is usually seen in supervision, and that is where you enact out your client's behaviours in supervision. For instance, I've had supervisors who said, I really don't want to talk about this client. And I've said, has this client said to you they don't want to talk about their issues? As a matter of fact, they have. So two things to really consider: transference, living in the past, and parallel process, where either you don't know whose emotions you're working with, or you're replicating the behaviour of a client in supervision, Ken.
Such important things to consider that are sometimes, as you mentioned, Rory, not visible to the counsellor within the session. And if we go back to the topic, personal preparation plan for trauma-informed practice, and we're delving into some theory, Rory speaking about that transference, that parallel process, why would we be covering that in a personal preparation plan? It's recognizing that there are things that may show themselves when working with trauma, and being aware of who you are, being aware of the theories that may play out, being able to recognize how that might play out within yourself, or what telltale signs you may see. Like you mentioned, Rory, I don't like this client. That might be a telltale sign, a good indicator to go to supervision. This is your preparation plan, being aware of what your triggers are, being very vigilant. Are any of those triggers coming up when you're working with someone? And in covering this topic and holistically, I guess grounding techniques for you or for your client might be part of your personal preparation plan. It'll be something that you write down. When such a situation comes up, I will implement such a grounding technique. And of course, that managing transference, parallel process. And I guess, Rory, one of the things we need to consider when we're putting together the plan is recognizing the impact of the work we're doing. As the counsellor, we need to be clear and fully present within the relationship and within the moment. Transference, we are not. Parallel process, we are not. Recognizing that the work can make us fatigued, irritable. It can give us emotional distancing from our clients. And these are all telltale signs that we might put in our personal preparation plan of what may play out in us that would indicate in some way that we're not fully serving this client, Rory?
Yeah, absolutely, Ken. Did any work where there's a chance that someone might become unwell or hurt, you would put in some sort of preparation. If you're trained to be a boxer, you do a lot of practice, you work with a trainer to prepare you for the impact of what is a very physical endeavor. And I think the same mindset is really useful if you're working with an emotional endeavor, to use your trainer, maybe that is your supervisor, to prepare yourself and consider what the impact of working with trauma is. As a therapist of quite a few years, I've heard some very difficult narratives from clients. One of the things I've been grateful for is the preparation that my supervisor helped me undertake. She was mindful when we met of talking about how many traumatized clients I was working with and how's that affecting me, how am I taking care of myself, how are you feeling after a week of working non-stop with trauma? You're spending time with your family, any hobbies? So important. And in fact, when I went for my first placements interview, the first question they asked me was, do you have any hobbies? That was the first question. So preparation is about that. It's about lots of introspection, thinking about your own past, thinking about maybe traumas you've gone through, what triggers you, what difficulties you might come across, and working with a supervisor or maybe even your own therapy, preferably before you meet clients, because then you would have some preparation.
Yeah, definitely. The key word here is preparation. It's about you, the counselor, keeping yourself well and recognizing the impact of the work that we're doing, the self-care strategies that are going to be unique to you, the things that re-energize you. And of course, as you mentioned, Rory, the importance of using the support system around you as a counsellor, using that also for the unseen, like we spoke about transference, where your supervisor will be helping you look for maybe the unseen, but the seen as well. Dare we go in and say to our supervisor, I was seeing a client the other day and they came with a terribly heavy story filled with immense sadness, and I just didn't feel anything. It's like it didn't impact me. It's being able to say those kind of things. And what are the things that recharge you? You put these in your personal preparation plan. What are the grounding techniques that can bring you as the therapist back into the here and now if you do feel a little bit of drift when you're working with that very heavy material? And it may be touching an object, the handle on your chair, that you go, I'm going to grab the handle of the chair and I'm just going to start feeling all the textures of that, and it can bring you back. How do you work in between sessions? You might put on a little bit of music, maybe some physical movement between your sessions. You might move around and shake off those energies as you prepare yourself for the next client. And these are just some suggestions. You put together a personal preparation plan where you're writing this down and considering these before they come up, of how you might act or keep yourself safe and present within the moments. We've spoken about those self-care strategies that keys in nicely, that support system. We've said supervision. And of course, personal therapy remains an option to us as therapists. We know more than any that going to personal therapy is a strength, not a weakness. It's a place that you can go and grow. And that may be suggested by your supervisor.
And I think there's no shame in feeling sometimes when you're working with clients a little dysregulated. I'm not going to say that I've worked with clients and I've not been very uncomfortable working with some of the material. The key thing is that those processes are only going to be temporary. I know where they're coming from. And if I feel that any of those processes are not actually coming from client, they're coming from another place, maybe somewhere in my history, then I know that's a place either for supervision or personal therapy. So I guess the message is you don't have to be this kind of bulletproof suit of armor therapist. It's okay to feel a little wobbly in sessions as long as you know where it's coming from and you know that you can regulate yourself.
Definitely. And the one last thing I like to mention is the understanding of the cultural contexts of being a therapist. This is about personal preparation. So it may involve CPD in ongoing learning to understand different cultural perspectives and, of course, personal reflection. How does your cultural background, the road you have traveled, influence how you show up within the therapy room? And these are all part of that personal preparation plan. It's understanding self and what the triggers may be. It's having a safety net of the unseen, the transference, maybe some parallel process going on there, understanding that cultural context, recognizing the impact of the work we do, having self-care strategies that are pre-mapped out and using the support systems to hold that together. And I think that is really informed practice. It really serves the client by keeping us safe and present within those relationships, Rory.
Yeah, it speaks to self-compassion, Ken. We have to be compassionate with ourselves. I think there's an idea in counselling that we're selfless people. Counsellors give their time hearing very difficult, sometimes terrifying stories to serve another. It's a calling. Sometimes we need to be compassionate with ourselves and ask, am I okay with myself? Has the material kind of eroding me? Rather like the boxer. Some boxers eventually give it up, don't they, because they're getting beaten up too much. And that's a physical sign that their careers are coming to an end. I think the same thing goes for therapists, in that too many traumatized clients in the week can, without a solid personal preparation plan and a lot of background work, eventually limit careers and also do untold emotional damage. That's why it's so important to plan, work with your supervisor, work with your peers to get some stability and have another life outside counselling. You know, and I've got lots of other things that I do outside of this work, and a majority of those things keep me buoyant, keep me safe. And that's really important. As a therapist, you deserve to be safe and to do the work in a way that doesn't diminish you. So personal preparation plan is all part of that.